Things just got worse and worse and worse as the night went on. Again, valiant effort down the stretch for the Bucs. Just too little, too late. Let's go down and let's see what Coach Fletch and the rest of the crew has to say. And as always, go Bulls. So let's head into the locker room right now and see what the guys have to say about that one. Wow. Where do the Buccaneers go from here? What an incredible atmosphere. What a good win for the Tampa Bay Lightning. They snapped a 7-game winning streak. How we feeling, Bucs Nation? It's time to party, baby.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast. Excuse me. Happy September 24th, 2025. Hope everybody's doing well, whether you're here in the Tampa Bay area or abroad. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Everybody out there, kill that like button if you can. The more likes, the more shares, the more subscriptions we get, the better. That's the only way we're going to make this thing grow. The other thing is the super chats. Make sure you're contributing $1, $2, $5, $10, $20, whatever you can do to help. Every little bit matters. And a big shout out to our partners right here: Honest Hammer Custom Builders LLC, 813-244-0956, and Evra Health as well, our new partners that just started up this week as part of our partnership with Evra Health. We are going to have a doctor join us every Thursday on the program to talk about some of the players that are dealing with injuries, not just with our Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but also other players around the National Football League to help you with your fantasy football, to help you with your betting and your gambling, your hard rock, and all that different stuff to use. Dr. Rodriguez is going to join us starting tomorrow, every Thursday at 12:30. He is going to join us here on the program. So Thursday at 12:30, he's going to join us starting tomorrow. So really, really good stuff right there. Okay, plenty to get into on the program today. We were going to have Chaz Nimrod on the program today, but he has to move to tomorrow. He's got something with school. So the wide receiver for our USF Bulls, he's not going to join us today. He's going to join us tomorrow on the program. But with that being said, at 12:30 today, we're going to slide that interview up with Bob Harig from Sports Illustrated. Ryder Cup action this weekend on Long Island. Bethpage Black, the U.S. against the Europeans. 5 straight wins for the home team in this competition. Can the U.S. make it 6? What about Rory and the guys? I mean, this is going to be a tough contest altogether. No Jordan Spieth. Bryson DeChambeau's in there. Scotty Scheffler's in there. Justin Thomas. We'll get into that at 12:30. And then 1 o'clock, our pal Josh Queipo from Pewter Report is going to join us. We got some big news coming out of One Buc Place over at the Avon Health Training Center. We will get into that here momentarily. I always want to hear from you. Questions, comments, concerns, leave them there at the bottom of the screen if you want to join in. We always welcome that conversation, whether you're watching on your phone or on your laptop. Just click the link right there, StreamYard.com/H99768QMQZ. Click on that link right there in the chat, and then you could join in on the conversation to talk about whatever you damn well please. Again, at Recher, follow me on all social media platforms, and we got another great show for you the rest of this week. Great Tom Jones is going to join us tomorrow. No, not that Tom Jones. It's not unusual. No, not that one. The great Tom Jones, many, many years at the Tampa Bay Times. Remember him from Rick and Tom, the sports page in the morning on WDAE. He's over at the Pointer Institute now. I want to get his opinion on the Rays and also his opinion on 50 years with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Man, what is crazy, huh? What is life? 50 years with the Buccaneers, as the Bucs now sitting at 3-0. A big matchup, 4-0 possibly this weekend, but we know it's going to be a tall task taking on the Eagles of Philadelphia. The fans are going to be out there. This is just one of those teams that travels well, so I don't want to hear any bitching and moaning about, oh, there's so much green. Like, this is the way it is. You're the defending Super Bowl champions. These people want to see them. There's a lot of people from Philadelphia down here. That is the nature of the beast. Get on out there and win this game. This is the most important game. The most important game is the next one, right? So we'll keep an eye on that. All right. So taking a look at everything that's happening, and we know from what we heard yesterday, Desmond Watson back on the practice squad. He was out there today. We did hear some good news Logan Hall, groin injury, not believed to be significant. Not sure he's going to play on Sunday. So shouldn't be a long absence for him. That's our guy, Greg Allman from Fox Sports. New Bucs tight end, Caden Prescorn, is a guy that's going to hopefully be a factor with this team now that O'Keefe looks like he's out. I mean, that's another thing. When you look at the ability for our tight ends to block and help out our offensive linemen, very, very rough. Very, very rough. All right, we'll get to the Godwin and the Wirfs news in a bit. I want to read some of these comments from you, David Terry. Jared, let's see if Shake and Bake can bake up something good with some substitute ingredients this Sunday. He's in there first above Benny. Greg Cruz is in the house. Greg the Cruz in the house. What's next for the Rays? Hopefully actually spending money on the damn team. New owners need to show they're different from Stu. No doubt about that, buddy. No doubt about that. I couldn't agree with you more. There is our guy, Honest Hammer. Dolan in the house as well. Janet Best doesn't watch and actually practice him. Now he's worthy of discussing about how he can help the team. We'll see. He's still on the practice squad. I don't know if he's necessarily going to play on Sunday, getting him back out there. I don't see how that's going to happen. Honestly, not sweating this game. This is truly a house money game. Whatever happens, happens. 3-0 start was the best outcome because these next 4 games are going to be rough. Just don't go 0-4. Let's go USA. Our guy, Lady Eiffel. Hopefully some good news about Tristan. Let's see. Nathan Elliott is here. If you want to go check him out, they'll be at Raymond James Stadium tailgating in Lot 12. All the J Recher watchers are invited. Go check out Nathan Elliott. Hello to you. Hello to all the degenerates out there watching the program today. At 800 pounds in the middle just to stop a play that'll be banned by the end of the season. NFL just banned it now. To be honest, why wait? Eagles are getting away with false starts and illegal procedure. Yes. And listen, people are acting like with Desmond Watson here that like the Buccaneers haven't been stopping it. Like they have been. The Buccaneers are one of the few teams to really be able to combat everything that Philadelphia has been able to do. And Vita Vea is a huge part of that. So to act like they necessarily need, does it help? You would think so. But just because you're a big guy doesn't mean that you use your leverage properly and that you're going to help. And you listen, they might be able to get underneath him and be able to push him out of there. We don't know that for sure. The false starts and the illegal procedures, we don't know. Obviously, they haven't called them as tight, but what we do know is that they're keeping a close eye on them. And we're talking about that a lot more. And if they're not going to ban them, I know that the referees every single week, and I'm sure this week too, they're going to be keeping a very close eye to the line of scrimmage there. Very close eye. If anybody moves early, if anybody's lined up in the neutral zone, I guarantee you that this week you may see some of those calls against the tush push. Keep an eye out for it. Keep an eye out for it. All right, some good news when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We have been waiting, but we do get this. Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs both practicing today as they move closer to a potential return on Sunday. That's exactly what you want to hear as we move closer and closer to the return of 2 huge members of this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. Now, no participation from Logan Hall and Christian Izzian, so not much of a surprise there. But we've been waiting on the return of these 2 guys. And just imagine what this team is going to look like when everybody gets back. And obviously it's going to be a while for Jalen McMillan and Mike Evans. Evans going to be probably 3 weeks or so. Jalen McMillan not to the second half of the year. But with that being said, to know that you're getting closer to get Chris Godwin back, knowing getting closer to get Tristan Wirfs back, that's got to make you feel a lot better. Now, you're taking some of the onus off of a guy like Emeka Egbuka. And let's just say they're healthy. Godwin on one side, Emeka on the other side. And then you have, obviously, Sterling Shepard. You have Tez Johnson. You have Ryan Miller. Like, you're getting contributions up and down the lineup. And one of the things that Philly has struggled with is that second corner position. So getting Godwin back, I mean, 2 guys with him and Egbuka that can really line up anywhere. Fantastic route runners. They're going to be able to make catches in traffic, make difficult catches. With that being said, even with him being back, the Buccaneers still have to run the football. Just like we saw last week, just like we've been seeing pretty much all year long. The attention to detail when it comes to running the football. And we're going to talk about this later on today, the Beckles and Recher podcast at 3 o'clock over at the Dignitary Cafe, focusing on the identity of this team. how important that identity is. And have the Buccaneers established one yet? I don't think they have. I really don't think they have. They're on their way, but it takes some time. Now, do we want to wait till week 18 like we did a couple of years ago when Dave Canales was like, hey, it's week 18, but I still don't know the identity of my team? It's probably not a good thing to say. Doesn't mean he's wrong, but just, it kind of reveals what you haven't been able to do all year long. For the Bucs, you got to run the football. Still, Bucky, Rashad, and eventually Sean Tucker's going to get some carries. He's done a good job, I think, in the return game, but eventually you're going to need him rushing the football a little bit more as well. Now, you get Tristan Wirfs back. Now, what does your line look like? Because we saw last week with Luke Haggard at one guard spot and Elijah Klein at another guard spot. And listen, we've been waiting for Elijah Klein. This is a guy that was a draft pick a couple of years ago. Surprised he wasn't pushing for more of a starting role, right, the last year or so. But he got an opportunity. And listen, they hung tough. They battled their ass off against the Jets last week. It wasn't pretty for sure, but they got it done. They helped the team to a victory, and especially in that last drive when Baker was able to drive downfield and set them up for the game-winning field goal. For all the penalties that you saw early on in the game, they were able to kind of hold the fort down during that last drive and not be one of the things that held the team back. So that's a positive sign, I think, going forward. So you get Tristan back, then what happens with the offensive line? You'd have to think that, well, that Tristan's going back to left tackle. Bredesen and then Barton would probably have to go back to center. Or does he go to right tackle? Yeah. I mean, I think we've seen some decent stuff from Charlie Heck. That's going to be interesting. Now you put Barton at right tackle, right? Knock Heck out of there and keep Klein and Haggard there and keep Bredesen at center. That's going to be an interesting thing because I know from what we just saw, Greg Allman said that the Bucs PR said to not tweet out what the positions are. You're not allowed to do that based on media protocols, but that's interesting. And I can't wait. I'll ask Ian about that at 3:00 today. Or do you go back to Barton at center, Bredesen at left guard, Wirfs at left tackle, and then your right guard is what, Haggard or Klein, and then your right tackle is Heck? Do you kind of want to break it up a little bit, right? Dan Feeney could play guard too as well. It's going to be interesting. That's another thing. Nobody thought going into week 1 that we were going to see Graham Barton at left tackle. Do we see him at right tackle? We know it's not easy, but it's a dominant defensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles. It's a big decision for Todd Bowles and the crew to make. Dave Velasquez, Tristan CG, got to be 100% healthy if they're going to play, wouldn't you think? I don't think they should be out there unless it's restriction-free. No, I mean, I think that's two different things. Are they going to be 100%? I don't think they will be because they haven't played a game, right? But they're going to play. They got to play at some point. They didn't play in preseason. They haven't had much meaningful snaps, right? In practice, they're only going to get so much. They weren't involved in joint practices, so it's almost like week 1 for them. And we've seen in the past how tough some of that ball is on during week 1. So I don't know if I don't think they'll be 100%, but I think they'll be restriction free. I don't know if that's like mutually exclusive there. Fantasy football question for Adam. Harrison Jr., Olave, McLaurin, Pittman Jr., which two to start? Oh my God. I mean, Harrison Jr. he can't catch a freaking cold right now. So it's tough to be able to go with him, right? I mean, I don't know. Who are you trying to start, Adam? Who are you leaning towards and why? And I'll see if I agree or disagree with you. I think you get your continuity on the right side back, roll Baker that way. Well, it would be continuity on the left side back with Wirfs and Bredesen and Graham Barton. The right side would be Heck and, whether it's Klein or Haggard or Dan Feeney. Keep away from the O-line shifts. Haggard guard, Heck right tackle, Otten on the right side. Yeah, he's going to help out. He's going to definitely help out. You can't play scared, though, if they're cleared to play. They're not scared, though, Greg. You know that. And we're going to hear from Bowles and Baker Mayfield today. So when they speak, we're going to have a better idea of what everything is going on for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team. But the big thing going into, and no, we're not going to light any sage this weekend because it didn't do shit last week. You have to look at this team and this game against the Philadelphia Eagles, and one of the most important things is try to come out as scot-free and as injury-free as humanly possible. It's just every single week we're adding more and more guys to the MASH unit. O'Keefe now on injured reserve, and it's just like you start looking at all these different guys, and damn, man, the contributions that you could have got from certain players. Kalijah Cansey, could we see him back at the end of the year? Maybe. David Walker, him being out. Was it J.J. Roberts, him being out as well? Just sucks, man. Like just Jalen McMillan with that injury. Could he be back? Yeah, it looks like it. Healthy. Be healthy. That's the most important thing. Most important thing is coming out of this game healthy. I think it's going to be a knockdown, drag out, because Philly's going to come out here with something to prove. They're not just going to ease into this game. Philadelphia is going to try to win this game because they know what the chatter's all about. And they look at their record and they look at the few games that they've lost in the last year and a half, and they know what happened last year against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They know that they've lost 3 of the last 4 games against the Bucs, and that just doesn't happen. That's that bugaboo. They're going to come out with a purpose. They're going to come out with a fire and intensity because they want to prove that without a shadow of a doubt that they are a team that is going to go back to the Super Bowl once again, that they are the force in the NFC. Now, when you look at some of these power rankings, like power rankings they're so subjective, but they're just absolutely terrible. The more and more power rankings I watch, and they have teams like Baltimore over the Bucs, even though they're 1-2. They have the Chiefs over the Bucs that are 1-2. Like a win is a win, is a win. And going back to earlier this week when we had that conversation about Drew Brees and, oh, well, the Buccaneers only win at the end of the game. And now he's going on First Take saying that Philadelphia, it's a boring offense. It's an offense I don't want to watch. Great. Let's add Drew Brees to the list of guys that just go and roll out of bed in the morning and just say a bunch of crazy shit just because they want to go viral. Just a bunch of lazy reporting. Again, people that played in the NFL say just as much asinine stuff as people that have never played. Who cares? A boring offense? Why? Because they overwhelm people and they run the football and they have one of the most exciting players in the game. And Saquon Barkley, that makes them boring? Your offense was boring. Or your short throws and you couldn't see over the offensive line. Yeah, that was a lot. It was a real fun offense to watch. Get real. Adam Cartwright, thinking Olave for the volume and then ride the hot hand with Pittman Jr. Danny Dimes seems different. Starters were McLaurin, but his QB is down, and Harrison, as you said, hasn't played well. Yeah, but here's the thing, too. When you look at that entire thing, if Jaden Daniels isn't going to be gone for a while, Marcus Mariota can fill in admirably just for a week or two. And when you do that, sometimes you lean on the best players. So sometimes the target value might be high. Yes, you might lean on the running game, but if he does pass it, he's going to go to his trusted guy, right? And if Terry's that guy, it could be him, but it could be also Debo. So I see that. So, yeah, I think you're right with Olave and Pittman Jr. Would I be surprised if Terry goes off with Mariota, with the veteran there? No, but it is like kind of you're running the risk and reward type of thing. You can't play Marvin Harrison Jr. right now. You just can't. I don't know what's going on with that kid. They're 2-1. I mean, they were just a play away from being 3-0, Arizona with Kyler Murray, but it hasn't worked out. It hasn't worked out. And this was a guy that people thought was gonna be a generational talent, but from what we've seen from Harrison Jr. and Arch Manning, I think we need to really be careful about putting the cart before the horse when it comes to these players, whether it's going from the high school level to the collegiate level or from the collegiate level to the pro level. Like these guys, they have to earn it themselves. They can't just ride on the coattails of their daddies or their uncles' names. They just got to be able to go out there and do their thing. They have to establish their own identity. And that, to me, is what makes it so impressive when you have a junior or a third or some of these guys that have come in after their dads and really just crushed it. I mean, Eli and Peyton, obviously, seeing what guys like Ken Griffey Jr. have been able to do over the years. It's amazing. It really is. Jeff Taylor, sub J, don't mean to pivot, but when are the memberships available? I've not listened this closely on that. Shame on me. Pumped to sign up. We're working on that, pal. We're going to have that over in the next, if not this week, by the end of next week, we'll have everything as far as the t-shirts, as far as the memberships. Really, really excited about that. So thanks for staying on it, Jeff Taylor. You are the man. You definitely are a guy that I appreciate it. Jeff Taylor's ready, man. He's like, when's this happening? I love that kind of stuff. Really, really do. All right, so 1 o'clock today, Josh Queipo is going to join us on the program. We're going to chat with him about, here, I want to play this video of Tristan Wirfs for you guys in a second here. Josh Queipo from Pewter Report is going to join us at 1 o'clock, give all of his opinions on everything going on. This is from our guy, Rick Stroud from the Tampa Bay Times. I want you guys to take a look at Tristan Wirfs. How does he look to you? Because I think if he looks, I mean, it doesn't matter how he looks, but if he's feeling good, he should be in there. So here's Tristan. We'll play that for you guys. You guys let me know what you think. Got the music playing. Like that. Okay. Looking pretty spry, boys and girls. What do you think? I think you look pretty good. Not bad at all. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. Put this out real quick just to make sure everybody knows. Support local and our guy, Rick Stroud. Make sure you subscribe to the Tampa Bay Times, man. We said about this yesterday. Mark Topkin, what a great chat that we had with him. Really, really good stuff. Really, really good stuff. And yeah, I know he just had Tom Jones on his podcast, and Tom's going to join us tomorrow. Here is this is what I love to see. Chris Godwin, my guy. I'm such a huge fan of his just as a human being. But if you look at Chris Godwin, you know when he's got the headband on, he's all business. Headband on, bag ready. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. That's got to make you feel good. You know both those guys want to play. You know they want to be in there. No reservations, no issues, no wondering if something bad's going to happen. You can't think about that. You got to go out there and you got to go do your thing. I love that. I love that these guys are pushing to play. I love the fact that it's like, hey, man, now's the time, regardless of the competition. It's the timing of everything, right? Week 4, Tristan's been out. We know what happened with the offseason surgery. We know what happened last year with Chris Godwin with his injury, with his freaking foot on backwards. We're getting close. We're getting close to getting those guys back. And I think that they both play this weekend against the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't know for sure. I'm not saying I have any inside information, but we're going to have to keep an eye on practice this week. Now, with the ability of the media to be able to be out there for practice this week, right? You're going to be able to tell if they're in, they're out. Or maybe not in or out, but you're going to be able to tell if they're practicing. So the practice schedule as follows. Practice tomorrow, practice Friday, and the media is available for both of those days. And again, Todd Bowles and Baker Mayfield speak today, and Todd will speak a little bit on Friday as well. But if you see Tristan Wirfs out there today, you see Chris Godwin out there today, see them out there tomorrow, and you see them out there on Friday, Philadelphia Eagles. If they're not out there tomorrow or the day after, they'll be asked. I mean, the Buccaneers will be asked about it. And then I would say they wouldn't be available on Sunday. But you're just hoping as they ramp up, and we've started to see that the last couple of weeks with Godwin and Tristan Wirfs. If they've been out there more and more, just a day here and just a day there, and it doesn't seem like there's anything, holding them back. It doesn't seem like there's been any setbacks. But to get both those guys back together on Sunday, regardless of who the competition is a huge boon for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It would have been huge even if they didn't have as many injuries as they have right now, but even more because of what they're dealing with. Because they're dealing with Cody Mauch out for the year. Because they're dealing with Gedeke being out for a couple of weeks. Because they're dealing with a guy like Mike Evans being out with a hamstring injury. Because of Jalen McMillan being out. And you want to take some of that heat off of Emeka Egbuka. But if there's one thing that we've learned about the Buccaneers, they're not going to bitch and they're not going to moan and they're not going to complain about injuries. And, unfortunately for them, they're playing a team on Sunday. It's the same thing. It's you don't win the Super Bowl by accident. It's the next man up mentality. Nick Sirianni is he's a rare bird. He's a different kind of cat. But this is a guy that, he's been to the Super Bowl a couple of times now in the last couple of years. They lost a few years ago, and then they were able to win it last year. So what he's been able to do, especially kind of circling the wagons once more after having a tough season a couple of years ago when they lost their coordinators. And listen, you can call me dead wrong, and that's fine. But when you lose the coordinators, you naturally have a little bit of a regression. You have to find a new way to go about your business. Now, Detroit, the Lions may be flying in the face of that because of what they were able to do on Monday night against Baltimore. Still a long season, but we see that at times. And, man, you look at Detroit, my goodness. What a win. What a statement win against Baltimore. And one thing that they need this year, Detroit, is some luck when it comes to the health department. They lost so many guys due to injury last year, especially on the defensive side of the ball. You have to wonder, is this that kind of year for the Buccaneers, unfortunately? The one guy you can ill afford to lose is Baker Mayfield. So regardless, and I said it on Monday, and I'll say it again today, whoever the offensive linemen are, however they line up, the main goal is to protect Six. Protect him at all cost. Make sure that he is upright. Make sure that he's okay. He's going to have his bumps and his bruises. He plays a tough and a hard-nosed game, but nothing severe, nothing, over the top, nothing crazy, no clean hits on him. If he gets sacked, he gets sacked, but no miscommunications where he's having a bull rusher just clean his clock. Can't afford that. Not at all. And, maybe you do get the tight ends involved in the passing game a little bit more this week, but I'm not so, that's not the most important thing to me. People are going to go out and say, oh, well, what if they had a big tight end? What if they need to go out and get this guy? And the goal for the tight end right now, and especially with O'Keefe being out, whether it's Payne Durham, Cade Otton, whoever the hell else is in there, is helping to block, help that offensive line. Now, we're going to see as many penalties this Sunday as we did last Sunday. Sure as hell hope not. But I anticipate, especially early, it's probably going to be ugly. And you're facing an offense that can move the ball a whole heck of a lot better than what we saw what the Jets were able to do until they were able to move it late. The Jets fans and other media, they're just crushing them right now. Oh, it's not the same old Jets. And it's just like, damn, man, it's 3 games into a new tenure and you had your backup quarterback and you don't have your quarterback of the future. I thought the Jets showed a lot of heart. It's weird how losing teams, right? They try to break down and they pick apart every little thing and what they did wrong. I mean, we can do that about the Bucs too, but at the end of the day, winning hides a lot of stuff. Because at the end of the day, that's all that matters. Winning. Find a way. When people tell me about run differential and point differential and goal differential, that means absolutely nothing. Nothing. You think you can gauge how good of a team is by how much they've won by? It's about matchups. You're not playing the same team every week. Even if you do play the same team this week as somebody else played last week, injuries, different game plans, there's a lot that goes into it. So to think one team's better than the other because of point differential or run differential or goal differential, whenever you hear somebody talk about that and they put a stress on that and they act like there's an importance to that, just turn off whatever the hell you're watching or whatever you're listening to and just know that that person is probably full of crap and they're grasping at straws. Doesn't make any sense. Sorry. All right. So big golf coming up this weekend. Of course, it is time for the Ryder Cup, and no better to talk some Ryder Cup action than our guy Bob Harig from Sports Illustrated. We recorded this before the show today, and we're going to play it for you now. Again, Chaz Nimrod, who was supposed to be in the spot today, but he's got to move to tomorrow, so we moved Bob Harig's interview from 1:30 to 2:30. You guys going to be tuning in to the Ryder Cup this weekend. Who do you think is going to win, U.S. or Europe? We broke it down here with Bob. All right, if we're talking golf, there's really only one person that we're going to talk to golf about here on the program, on the Recher podcast. It's our good buddy Bob Harig, Sports Illustrated. They're on Long Island, in my neck of the woods, about 20 minutes from where I grew up in Bethpage. Bethpage Black is where the Ryder Cup will be taking place this weekend. Bob, how's it going, man? How are things?
Going well, thanks, Jay. Appreciate you having me on. Big week in the golf world. Kind of slipping this one big last event of the year in amid all the big football talk, which it's the only way golf's going to get any attention probably is a Ryder Cup this week.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. And first, we'll start off with like Keegan Bradley. I mean, the people are wondering, is he going to take himself? And he doesn't. I mean, we know the kind of guy he is, and it was really cool to be able to see kind of a peek behind the curtain a little bit with him, with the Netflix documentaries and everything. But were you surprised? Were you taken aback they didn't select himself, being that he seems like he's been playing some pretty good golf the last couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised given the way he's addressed the issue.
Right.
But I think there was a sense that it wouldn't have been a big deal if he would have. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think this isn't an offensive coordinator changing plays on the fly. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of what's going on is decided. Like, they're not announcing the pairings until tomorrow, but they know who's playing Friday morning.
Right.
They probably know who's playing Friday afternoon. These guys are professional golfers who are used to doing it with themselves and a caddy. I don't really think they need a captain holding their hand. But I think he was concerned about his own ability to focus in on the playing aspect. And, if he had a tough week on the course as a player, that was going to only compound any issues that he would face as a captain. And so the sad thing is you only get so many cracks at this as a player. He's 39 years old. I mean, like, he's only played in 2. It's been a while, 2014. Right. So it's like everybody has said, if he wasn't the captain, he wasn't part of this, and he did the exact same thing on the course, he'd be on this team. So, and I asked him the other day, I said, look, I know you came to terms with all this, but was there any pangs, any just a hint of remorse or a tinge of wanting to be out there? And he said, absolutely. I'm out there on the tee with these guys, and I'm thinking about where I'd be hitting the ball. He goes, I also have recognized that there are certain things that would have been very hard for me to do properly if I were playing.
Yeah, and I love the transparency. You don't always get that, man. You might get the company line, right? So we've seen some of these guys play together, and you mentioned that the pairings will be announced tomorrow. But from your guesstimation, man, who do you think we could see paired up tomorrow, or at least the rest of the week here for the team on the U.S. side?
The two formats make for a different, a different dynamic. Foursomes, which is alternate shot, is awkward. These guys do not do this unless they play the New Orleans tournament, the Zurich. Just not playing foursomes in professional golf.
Right. And
so it takes some thinking it through and working on it. If you go by the practice rounds, if you go by some of the pairings or the practice rounds in Napa a couple of weeks ago, even last year's President's Cup, which has the same format, I got to believe Scotty Scheffler is playing with Russell Henley. Mm-hmm. I got to believe they're, that first session on Friday morning, you can't leave the number one player in the world out. So, I think that's a pretty obvious one. I think Colin Morikawa, I think Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay, they've played together 9 times in foursomes over 5 cups. President's Cup, Ryder Cup. They've not had great years, but I'm not sure you can substitute that familiarity in a tough format. So you probably figure they're out there. Do you sit Bryson DeChambeau, one of the most popular players in golf, just because you're not sure who to pair him with? I think he's going to play. My guess, he might play with Ben Griffin.
Okay.
So then who do you leave out? All right. I look at somebody like Justin Thomas, who's probably one of their best players. You probably got to find a way to get him in there. And he's been in the practice rounds with Cam Young. So it might be those guys. And then, obviously there's 4 guys who sit out. My sense is they try to find a way to work them in the afternoon, which is 4-ball, which is best ball. That's a little bit of an easier format in that you just get to play your own ball. If you mess up and your partner can bail you out. If I'm making a 10 somewhere, my partner makes a 3, the 3 goes on the scorecard.
Right.
So, and I'm guessing we're going to see Scheffler play in the afternoon as well. And no question, Bryson will play in 4-ball. You want guys who make birdies. Colin Morikawa, if he's not playing in the morning, which, I left him out, he still could play in the morning. He'll definitely play in the afternoon. So, the interesting thing is the European side is 11 of their 12 players back. And 2 years ago, they started the same way, foursomes. They wiped it out, 4-0. Do they bring back those same 4 teams Friday morning? It was Rory and Fleetwood, and I think it was Hatton and Rahm and Ludwig, and he played with Victor Hovland, and I think it was Shane Lowry and Sepp Straka. They keep that together. You go away from a good thing. That'll be to me is going to be just as interesting, because Luke Donald, their captain, might mix that up a little bit.
Yeah, it's and as much as we think like, a guy's playing well on the tour or not playing well on the tour, this is a totally different ball of wax, isn't it, Bob? Like you could think like a guy's he really didn't play that well, but there's just something about this competition that it brings something different out of these golfers, doesn't it?
No question. Sometimes they get inspired. The crowd is going to be amazing. It's going to be a very, very partisan U.S. crowd, unlike what we see at golf typically. It's, frankly, it's going to be like a football game. It's going to have that kind of vibe, that kind of noise, cheering and booing. Typically there's not booing in golf. We don't see people boo a bad shot, but they will here. Or they'll cheer. Actually, you don't see them cheer a bad shot. Right. See that here. When if a European player hits one in the rough or in the bunker, there'll be massive cheers. So that you wouldn't see that at the Masters.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you mentioned football before with the Giants and the Jets both 0-3. I know my dad's like, I'm gonna be watching Ryder Cup this week.
Yeah. Yep.
Obviously, one of the big stories is Bryson and Rory, right? I mean, everything that happened at the Masters and Bryson, and how they kind of handled the back and forth. And I mean, this is a big storyline going into the weekend, right? If we see these guys together, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some chirping going on, right? How's that dynamic going to look like, Bob?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's quite possible. I mean, it takes a little bit of luck for them to be, in the same grouping, because the draw is blind. Each captain is going to put out his pairings and his order, not knowing what the other guy's doing.
Right.
So they might try to guess, but it could happen that like if Roy's playing with Fleetwood in the third match out on Friday morning, Bryson could be in the third match. It's possible. And then that would add an interesting little dynamic to the whole thing. It'd be especially amazing if they were together in singles on Sunday. And the singles were, the match is competitive in the Sunday. That's the one thing. The last 5 Ryder Cups have been won by the home team in virtual blowouts. Not quite that, but on the scoreboard, they've been won by a minimum of 5 points. I always tell everybody 5 points is really only a difference of 2 or 3 matches.
Right.
Because you're not adding on points. If I'm adding, then if I'm adding here, then we're subtracting there.
Right.
So all it takes to change those 5-point difference is for 2 matches to go completely the other way, and then it's only a 1-point difference. So if it would be nice if we went into Sunday, no matter who you're rooting for, I think it would be nice if it were like 9-7 or 8-8 or 8.5 to 7.5, something close, because the last few years it's been, even a 3-point difference is pretty big going into Sunday. And so, if that were the case, and then you have a Bryson Rory singles match, imagine the attention on that.
Unbelievable. In the middle of football Sunday,
Right.
Bryson and Rory going head to head. What's one of those storylines, Bob, that a lot of people are kind of missing? That's why I love asking you, man. You always come at it from a different perspective. Who's the golfer? What's the storyline that's not getting enough attention going into this weekend?
Yeah, look, I think certainly on the U.S. side, I'm very, very intrigued by J.J. Spaun. He won the U.S. Open, but J.J. Spaun has never played in a Ryder Cup. He's never played in the President's Cup. 18 months ago, he looked like he might lose his PGA Tour card. He had a rally last year to get his card for this year, and then he kind of went on a run. He lost to Rory in a playoff at the Players' Championship. He had a couple of other high finishes. He won the U.S. Open. Makes the Ryder Cup team in points, and yet he's never done this. Well, he's going to have to play some. How's he going to do? How's he going to handle it? How did they partner him? Who does he play with? It's unusual to have the U.S. Open champion sort of not be that talked about.
Right.
Although I'll say 2 years ago, Wyndham Clark was in a little bit of the same situation. He had not done much in these team competitions, and yet Wyndham Clark had won on tour. He was a little bit more accomplished than J.J. Spaun. So I'm very curious. I mean, the Ryder Cup sometimes is about these no-name guys stepping up. I'm not saying he's a no-name, but the guys you're not expecting to be a hero. And so, that's happened throughout, especially on the European side. The U.S. could use a couple guys like that.
Is Bryson kind of that, the wild card, kind of the X factor of who he plays with and what kind of impact? Because it feels like if he plays Bryson ball and he can, I don't want to say dominate, but he could be one of the better players out there. And I just feel like a lot of eyes are going to be on him and like I said, Rory. But man, it's going to be a big question who he's going to play with and how he's going to fare, right?
Yeah, especially if the foursomes format. Bryson's not done this a lot either because of Liv. He's not been in a Ryder Cup since 2021. In that year, he was good. His partner was Scotty Scheffler, who nobody knew about at the time.
Wow.
And twice, and they what they do? I believe they won one and tied one in 2021. But they played 4-ball. They didn't play foursomes. Bryson hasn't played foursomes since 2018. Wow. 7 years ago. He lost them both. One of his partners was Tiger, and the other partner was Phil.
Jesus.
It's a long time ago, and it's hard to it's like you almost have to throw it out.
Right. No chance he plays with Scotty, huh, Bob?
I doubt it. I think Scotty's going to play with Russell Henley.
Okay.
They played together at the President's Cup last year.
Right.
That's, again, another comfort thing. You got to get comfortable. I think a guy like Scotty helps carry along a guy like Henley, who's maybe not as comfortable. Bryson needs to be a guy who does that too, and that's why I think his partner might be Ben Griffin, because Griffin's never played in one of these either. Never played in the President's Cup.
It's like an alpha, right, and kind of like a senior-junior kind of relationship.
If anybody has studied the old Ryder Cups, when Seve played back in the day, Tony Jacklin, the European captain, he'd put him with a young, green player, and just let Seve mentor him and pull him along and give him confidence. And I think there's something to be said for that. It helps bring out the best in a guy who might not be that comfortable, especially when you have a partner who can really help you out.
All right, Bob, before I let you go, how do you think it all plays out this weekend, man? Like you said, 5 in a row, the home team wins it. Did the U.S. make it 6?
I think so, but I'll be honest with you, I'm not that confident. I mean, I'm going to pick them, but I'm not confident about it because I think the European team is really good. They're very confident. They're very, very, very keen on kind of upsetting that trend. You know, Rory said one of the hardest things in golf, in sports nowadays, is to win a Ryder Cup on the road. You know, the U.S. has not won a Ryder Cup on the road in more than 30 years.
Wow.
1993. In that time, Europe has won 3 on the road, the last in 2012. Rory and Justin Rose, who are on this team, were on that team. So, you know, they know a little bit about what it takes. Chicago, New York, big crowds, you're up against it. So, like, I don't think this is going to be a blowout, but I do think the U.S. is going to find a way.
Did they miss Spieth? Sorry, I wanted to get that in. Did they miss Spieth? I know, you know, obviously it hasn't been the same. You and I have talked about kind of his fall a little bit, but I just feel like that Spieth Thomas, they always seem to kind of play their best during cup competitions like this, don't they?
That's true. I mean, that was a good team for the U.S.
Right.
But Spieth, unfortunately, you know, Spieth wasn't very good at the Ryder Cup 2 years ago.
Right.
And he's just not quite back to where he was. He was coming off an injury in 2024. You know, he took him a little while to get going this year. It's too bad because he's so popular. Like, the more popular players that you have, the better it is for the U.S.
Right.
The more guys to rally behind.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Make sure you go get his book. I've got them both. Drive the Lasting Legacy of Tiger Woods. Tiger and Phil, golf's most fascinating rivalry. And I see it here on Amazon too, brother. Tiger versus Jack. You and I have been talking about this for the last couple of years. Golf. Great debate. That's coming out next year, 2026, Bob?
Yeah, next spring. Yeah, God help me, we get it done here soon.
Bob Harig, the best. You're the man, Bob. Thank you so much. Enjoy the golf this weekend, buddy.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate you having me.
The man, the myth, the legend, our guy, Bob Harig. There's nobody better than him. He is the best. You know who else is the best? Our friends over at Honest Hammer Custom Builders, thehonesthammer.com. Let's take a look at this website. My goodness. Check it out right here. They got a little bit of everything. One thing I love about this, it's just so easy. They have all the information on there. 813-244-0956, the services, their portfolio, the estimates about them, scheduling the project. Contact 813-244-0956, commercial, residential. They can help you. Give them a shout. And look at that. I didn't mention this before. Honest Hammer gives a discount to those who help keep our people safe and healthy. We're talking firefighters, military, police, nurses, 5% discount for any project with Honest Hammer Custom Builders. Give them a shout. They're a licensed and insured Florida general contractor, CGC 153-1166. No project too big, no project too small. Really, really good stuff for them. Custom homes, kitchen and bathroom remodels, new and commercial construction. They can help you. Tampa Bay sports fans, just like yourself. They are the best, man. Go check them out. Tell them that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast, and you get a discount on your project. 813-244-0956. TheHonestHammer@gmail.com. TheHonestHammer.com. It's tough, man, when you're trying to make these changes to your home, these bathroom and kitchen renovations. You don't want to spend bad money after good money, bad money after bad money. Go to The Honest Hammer. TheHonestHammer.com. 813-244-0956. A company that you can trust. And again, get a discount. Telling you that you heard it right here on the Jay Recher podcast. They were our number one partner. They've been with us since pretty much the beginning. And now we brought on another member to our team, and it is Evra Health. Tomorrow, we will start our weekly discussions with Dr. Rodriguez from Evra Health, and we are going to help you in your fantasy football concerns. We're going to help you for your gambling and your betting needs. You got a guy like Jaden Daniels. You got a guy like Chris Godwin or Tristan Wirfs. What do those injuries entail? What does it mean? Dr. Rodriguez is going to join us every Thursday at 12:30. We will do that. I'll answer your fantasy football questions as well after that. We're going to kind of put all of that entire thing together. From 12:30 to 12:50, Dr. Rodriguez will join us from 12:50 to 1 o'clock. We will definitely go into some fantasy football stuff as well. But just take a look at this website, everhealth.org. You look at their services, all the things that they do, right? News and events, emergency preparedness, medical records, careers, how you could possibly work there, about them. You want to schedule an appointment? You could do that here as well. You want to find a location? They got that right at the top right, and all of these different languages. So if you think, or if you know somebody that, I need help, but maybe I don't speak English as well. Maybe I speak German. Maybe I speak Estonian. They'll be able to help you out. Just look at this website, everhealth.org. Our relationship is going to grow bigger and bigger over the years. I'm going to be doing some podcast stuff with them over the next couple of years. Feel free to contact them right off the rip. 727-824-8181. The Everett Health Foundation, the residency program, their partners, big sponsors of USF as well. everhealth.org. Go check them out, man. They are some unbelievable people, and our relationship is just going to continue to grow and grow over the year. Cannot wait to chat with them tomorrow. Dr. Rodriguez joins us at 12:30 every Thursday. Let's talk a little bit of Lightning hockey before we get with Josh Queipo and Pewter Report and talk some Buccaneers. Lightning win again last night. They make it 2 in a row after the win over the Carolina Hurricanes. They win last night over Steven Stamkos and the Nashville Predators. They win in the shootout. Boris Kachuk scoring the game winner, the only goal scored in the shootout. And then we saw earlier today, we're starting to see it, the roster is getting cut down. So now we are down to 53. These players, and no surprise here, these guys going back down to the junior, Ethan Zada, Everett Baldwin, Aiden Foster, Jan Golicic, Caleb Hale, who was the 7th-round pick here in 2025, did really good in the third period. And at prospect camp a couple of weeks ago, he was fantastic. Minosa, Sam O'Reilly, who scored the goal last night on a tip from Oliver Bjorkstrand. Got to feel good. It's ironic. Sam O'Reilly and Isaac Howard both scored last night. Sam O'Reilly, we know it's going to be a little bit of a long-term thing. Isaac Howard's going to be ready this year, and I'm sure if he does well at all for Edmonton, people are going to say, oh, what a steal. Lightning have won that deal. We're not going to be able to judge that for a couple of years down the road. So we'll see Caden Petre, Grant Spada as well. So really, really good stuff from the Bolts. We're getting closer and closer to opening night. Man, Lightning hockey, baby. That's when things are really kicking into high gear. In the fall, in the winter, when we have USF, when we have the Bucks, we have the Lightning doing their thing. And yeah, I just saw something from Greg Wyshynski from ESPN. One bold statement, one bold prediction for each team, and he actually has the Tampa Bay Lightning winning the Atlantic Division, partially because Matthew Marner is no longer with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He is now with the Vegas Golden Knights, and also because the injury to Matthew Tkachuk. But with that being said, I still find it difficult to not put Florida in that number one spot because they have so many other good players on the team, and it's led by their captain, Sasha Barkov, in the middle. You have Sammy Reinhart, that's a 50-goal scorer. You have the 1-2 punch that they have up the middle with Bennett and Barkov. Like, we know how key that is to being successful in the National Hockey League, right? And we saw it with, Point and Stamkos and Point and Cirelli and all these different things. We saw it with the Blackhawks, with, what they were able to do. Maybe not as much with them. Theirs was more of a Taves and Kane kind of thing. But when you look at two centers, I look at Boston, what they've been able to do for Patrice Bergeron and David Krejci, right? Looking at the Pittsburgh Penguins with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, right? So that's been kind of the secret, not the secret sauce, but it's been one of the ingredients for their success is having Sasha Barkov, such a fantastic two-way player as their first-line center, and then having Sammy Bennett come in and score big goals, play well defensively. And then you have a third line with Luosterainen and those guys. They're tough, man. Anton Lundell and the crew. You're bringing back Marchand. You brought back Sammy Bennett. You brought back Aaron Ekblad. This is the final year of the long 10-year deal for Sergei Bobrovsky. So, yeah, man. I mean, you look at that entire thing when it comes to the Bolts. They need to really start the season off right. No practice today, so no word on Andrei Vasilevsky. And I was actually having a conversation with somebody up in Toronto, one of the big NHL insiders, and we were having a long discussion about the Lightning and Andrei Vasilevsky. You ask me, when it comes to players, when it comes to injuries, when it comes to guys coming back. Usually I lean optimistically. Usually I'm step away from the panic button guy. But I don't know if there is a player. I mean, it's Baker and Vazzy, right? I mean, those are the two biggest guys when it comes to the success of the team. You could say that the teams would be able to kind of hold down the fort with them out if they're out for a short period of time, long period of time. You're looking at this Bucs team a lot different if they don't have Baker Mayfield. You're looking at this Lightning team a lot differently if they don't have Andrei Vasilevsky. But when you have a guy, it's tough not to say it's tough to say that it's not the quarterback. But I think when you look at Andrei Vasilevsky and you look at the ability that he has to reach the ultimate goal and win the Stanley Cup, and he's done it twice, I think you would have to say that he's more important in the success of the team than Baker Mayfield. It's tough. It's definitely 1-2. I don't think it's anywhere, I don't think you can make any type of argument for any other player on any of the team, and that's including the Rays. But we've seen that in baseball. We've seen you lose your top player. A couple of years ago when the Braves won the World Series, their best player was probably Ronald Acuna Jr. He wasn't even in there for them. Baker or Vasi, who's more important to their team's success? It is minuscule. The margin is so fine, but I'd have to lean towards Vazzy just because of the experience of him being in the Stanley Cup Finals and winning those games and understanding that you need a goaltender for up to 28 playoff games. And you have a viable backup in Teddy Bridgewater, right? And not saying that Jonas Johansson isn't a good backup for Andrei Vasilevsky, but I've got a lot more confidence in Teddy than I do Jonas because Teddy's been up and down the roads and he understands what it takes to be successful in the National Football League. And if he has to be a little bit more of a game manager and dumping the ball off and handing the ball off a little bit more, if the Buccaneers can get their pieces back, I think he has a much better job of leading them to maybe a long postseason run than a guy like Jonas Johansson. Still, that's not a great conversation to have because we want to make sure that we have as many of the top players for our teams here in the Tampa Bay area. But am I concerned about the injury to Andrei Vasilevsky? I am because now with nobody on the ice today, that's 5 days in a row he's not on the ice. And we know that he's not a guy that is a big lifter after what happened a couple of years ago. He doesn't do squats or anything like that. So is it something lingering? Is it something that he needs surgery for? The other thing I said on the program yesterday is my level of concern will raise exponentially over the next 72 hours if he's not on the ice by this weekend. If he's on the ice tomorrow, I'm feeling better. If in turn he's on the ice Friday, then it's like, okay, he's got plenty of time. But you have to remember this, and this is, again, we're going to talk about this with Josh Queipo in a couple minutes here. If Tristan Wirfs and Chris Godwin come back, it's game one for them. It's week one, and those guys have not played any preseason games. Those guys have not played in any of the joint practices. So they're just naturally going to have to knock off some rust. Your calendar and your schedule is completely different than everybody else who, for the majority of this team, is starting week 4 of the National Football League, but they've also done a bunch of different stuff in the preseason and joint practices and things like that, long training camps. So for Vazzy, if you're behind the 8 ball for 4 days in September, that's not the worst thing in the world. But when 4 starts turning into 6 and 7, and you're looking at 2 weeks, will he be ready for opening night? We don't know that. We don't know that. And if you're the Bolts, you need to start and you need to get out of the gates fast. Because I want to see this team win the division this year. I know just get in and win. Munch the points early on in the season. That's the same kind of stuff, the same rhetoric we hear from John Cooper every year, and I understand that. But from what we've seen the last couple of years, I think they need to put a little bit more of a precedent on avoiding one of these Atlantic teams in the first round of the playoffs. Can we avoid a Maple Leafs? Can we avoid a Florida Panthers team? Yeah. I mean, then you give yourself a real chance. And maybe you survive the war of attrition and then maybe you lose a guy, right? Like, I'd rather watch Toronto and Florida battle it out for 7 games, or Florida and Detroit or Ottawa or any of these other teams. Let them battle it out for 7 games, and then you end up playing them in the long run. It'd be nice if you're the Lightning to be the 1 or the 2 seed, to play a wild card team, to play a lower team that barely made it into the playoffs, and just get your feet wet into the postseason instead of having to jump right into what could be an Eastern Conference final matchup in the first round. It's been, you got to be the best, you got to beat the best. I understand that. But for what they've had to encounter these last couple of years, if we had our choice, our druthers, maybe a little bit different this season. The only way you do that is by being successful in the regular season, and it starts with game 1. All right, let's talk some Buccaneer football, and we'll do it with our favorite Josh. Screw Josh Jackson. Josh Queipo is here. And no, not Joshua Jackson, former actor, former Josh Jackson, Kansas Jayhawk basketball player. We're getting all the Josh Freeman. You're out of there. Josh Duhamel, whatever the hell that guy's name is. It's Josh. You're the best Josh we know, buddy.
I love that you brought me in right after talking hockey and goalies, because I'm sitting there going, the last time I thought about, a team that thought they needed their stalwart goalie, the Mighty Ducks did pretty good with Julie the Cat back there. So
Julie the Cat Gaffney from Bangor, Maine, baby, from Bangor, Maine. And especially because the real life Goldberg has had some real issues. My guy's been arrested, and he's been homeless.
Looks like he's gotten his life back on track, though, which is nice to see.
He's better. He's definitely better. But, I mean, he just got thrown off. Julie the Cat Gaffney threw him off. He ended up playing defense during D3 when they played at Eden Hall. And it's been terrible for him ever since. What's going on, brother? Where are you at today?
Just out, Atlanta
out
area.
And about. Out and about.
Yeah, my other job calls for me to do quite a bit of driving, so you'll catch me in my car a lot.
He is a driving fool, my guys and gals. All right, so we heard the news today. Tristan Wirfs back out there. Chris Godwin back out there for practice. Let's say they do play, Josh, because it doesn't make any sense for us right now to be able to be like, well, if they play or they don't play, because it's just speculation. But if they do play, Josh, what can we expect, do you think, from those two guys? Because you heard me just say, like, they're going to have to knock some of the rust off. It's not going to look pristine right off the rip without any of the preseason. You would hope that I say that, right? But then I look at Tristan Wirfs and I look at Chris Godwin. If two guys would look the least rusty out of anybody on this roster, it might be these two guys. But what do you expect if they're in the lineup on Sunday against the Eagles? What do you expect to see?
Yeah, with Wirfs, I would say even him at 65 to 70%, I think you're seeing an upgrade in the offensive line, which
right.
Grizzard and Baker have done a phenomenal job of kind of patchworking things around the line. I thought that against the Jets, the line actually gave Baker the most time to throw, and he looked the most comfortable back there. Not to say he looked extremely comfortable, but certainly better than week 2 against Houston and even what Atlanta was throwing at him. But I would say it's an immediate upgrade, and it allows them to start to get back to some sense of normalcy. If it were me, I would probably go Wirfs at left tackle. I know there's been some discussion, well, throw him back to the right and him and Barton, but I'd rather just have him at left, have Barton go back to either center or left guard, have Bredesen there, and you're starting to get one side of the line strong, and then you can kind of scheme around the other side of the line with Charlie Egg.
Could you see them do the other? Could you see them do the other way, though, Josh? Because I was just posting that question a couple of minutes ago of, could you see them go, all right, Barton go to right guard or right tackle then and keep Bredesen there, and then you just like you take Heck out and you kind of work with Haggard and Klein at the guard spots? Or do you look and say, all right, I got 3/5 of my line from the center to the left, and then you kind of scheme 2 behind them in the run game maybe, or scheme away from them possibly in the passing game on the right side? Like, could you see both sides of that argument?
Oh, absolutely. I think those are real conversations that are happening in the building right now. I just think my preference would be get Wirfs back where he's most comfortable,
no doubt,
where he's been the last couple of years. Get Barton back inside where he can be a much better weapon. And for me, it's still not like necessarily putting everybody back where they belong, because I actually think Barton might be better at guard. You can move him more, pull him more there, maybe keep Bredesen at center. There were some things about Elijah Klein that I thought were positives from this past week. So I would rather have him there than, again, continue to shuffle things around. Put Barton over at right tackle. It just doesn't make sense to me. He's never really played that side. So it'll be interesting how they go out with it. But no matter what, if Wirfs is in the lineup, I think it's an upgrade no matter what. And then with Godwin, I would expect a pitch count, and I would love to see him in on third downs. Put him in the money situations to keep the drive rolling. And you've got enough weapons who have very specific roles that they can play well, who can augment that and just have him kind of as that cherry on top.
Right. What do you expect? Because some people are going to say, all right, he's back on the practice squad. Desmond Watson's here to help with the tush push. And then there's other people like, there's no way he's playing this weekend. Where do you fall in that discussion?
I don't think that using a roster spot for that is necessary. To be completely honest, I think that they would be looking at where are we most depleted at certain positions and who can help us for more than 3 or 4 snaps a game to do that. So great to see that Desmond's progressing and that he's gotten to a point where he can be signed to the practice squad and he can start to contribute. But this is also a guy who, very much like what you just said with Vazzy, like he hasn't been out there. He hasn't gotten a chance to actually play at all. So I think temper those expectations. I don't think the Bucs are signing a guy for 3 to 4 plays every other year.
I love that. Yeah, bring him in for the tush push. I'm like, wait a second. Don't they do a decent job without him? Right? Isn't that crazy? And now let me ask you too, as far as the tush push goes, there's a lot more attention to it as far as what's not being called, as far as the, lining up in the neutral zone or these guys false start. Do you think that the referees are going to start really cracking in and they're going to know it's coming because everybody in the building knows it's coming? Do you think we start seeing some false starts? Do you think just because they're looking for it, and we know how that happens, right? We know that there's plays that the referees are alerted to and say, hey, we got to do better with this. We got to do better with that. I feel like there's going to be, even though there's not a quote unquote ban, I feel like it's going to be refereed and officiated a little bit stricter going forward. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I would expect that, but I almost think that it's going to play to Philadelphia's favor more than it's playing to the defense's favor.
Okay.
They know that that's going to happen, and now you go hard count, and I think they're going to be able to pull off sides. So unless it's right at the goal line where you can't actually move across the goal line with a touchdown on a penalty, but on those 4th and inches, 4th and 1s, I think that they're going to be able to extract more first downs by just playing off the fact that they know that the officials are going to be calling it, and they're probably going to call some hard counts on it.
The one guy that I was going into the season, I said, don't forget about this guy, was Rachaad White. And I know I was busting your chops about that the other night on Twitter because I've been saying to everybody that would listen, I go, listen, Bucky had 3 different injuries last year, 3 different ones. And he didn't even start every game last year. And Rachaad is a tough guy. And if anything, he may not have the vision. He may not have the breakaway speed, but he's tough as nails. He can pass protect like a mother sucker. And he's going to be out there. And I just felt like Rachaad was a guy, like, don't forget about Rachaad White. What did you see from Bucky and Rachaad in the first couple of games that, just your biggest takeaway from the run game? Because I'm a huge proponent of attempts over yards, keep running the football. And Rachaad hasn't, in my opinion, really let the whole, all right, Bucky's RB1 affect him. Like, he's still out there playing his ass off every single week.
Yeah, I mean, he's a consummate teammate and team guy. And I think that they play – I've always maintained that the two of them together gives you an elite running game. And I've never really understood the whole pitting them against each other. I know people were calling for Bucky to get more carries because the yards per carry were different. But that was something that I've been screaming from the rooftops for years now is the Bucs weren't running Rachaad in a scheme that catered to his skill set, which is that gap-based counter duo pull type scheme. And he's run well, and he's had really good yards per carry and just efficiency metrics when he's been given those opportunities. What happened early last year was Rachaad White was being asked to do all the mid-zone stuff that they couldn't block up well. And Bucky was getting all the gap stuff early. And so you saw this huge disparity in yards per carry overall. But when you dug in and you said, well, let's look at just on those gap runs, both of them were really good. Just on the zone runs, neither one of them was really good. So just call more gap. And Grizzard's done that this year. And White has responded really well because he's gotten more of those carries, which is really nice. I think the two complement each other well. I think Rachaad needs to be in there on more of the third down stuff, which they've done a pretty good job with because of the blocking that you mentioned. There were Bucky on the last drive came up with some really key blocks, but there's been a lot of variance in his blocking this season. I'd say on the whole, maybe a little bit better than last year, but there are still some where he just gets blown up. He gets literally like, he'll try to jump into a dude or throw his shoulder in, and the guy just kind of catches him and takes him for a ride. Whereas Rashad has that mass to really hold up against any linebacker, and he packs a punch. So the two of them together, just really great compliments for each other. And I think the run game's going to continue to get better as the Bucs get healthier on the offensive line. It was tough for them this past game against the Jets. They really had trouble doing anything, and that's because they had to simplify their blocking scheme. You saw a lot of just inside zone and duo stuff, which is kind of your most simple in terms of your blocking structures, because they had so many new pieces in there.
Look, we got a random Eagles fans. Y'all really bring back Watson for the tush push? You got to rewind, brother, and watch what we were just talking about. Reading and listening. Comprehension is fundamental, buddy. He's got AJ for 200 this week. All right. Well, I mean, if you look at anything, you look at the defensive side of the ball, and our guy Jamel Dean has done pretty well.
Ooh,
I thought this was a guy that everything that wasn't working with this defense, as far as not being able to get home with 4, playing way off these guys. Like, I don't necessarily know if that's Jamel's strengths, and you're not playing into the strength of your guy, where he's a big dude. He can tackle in coverage. When the play's in front of him, I think he does a really good job. We know he's got his deficiency catching the ball, right? I mean, they were joking when he had the pick 6, like, hey, he finally caught it. So it's not talking smack. Like, that's Baker and Levante were joking about it on the sidelines. But when he's playing a little bit closer, and I know on the interception he was off a little bit, but he has that confidence to be able to go up more now. And you have Hassan Reddick, and Yaya Diaby picked up a sack last week. I think you're seeing them put him in a position to succeed. And I think Jamel has played some of his best ball in the first 3 games that we've seen probably in the last couple of years. And he's healthy, right? I mean, staying on the field has been one of his big bugaboo.
Yeah, it's been really nice. I will first just start off with that Philly fan. My mother grew up outside of Philly. So I understand that people from that area have delusions of grandeur. Don't hold it against them.
And Watson's back on the practice squad, buddy. He's back on the practice squad. He's probably not even playing this weekend.
But to the point about Dean, I remember leading up to his contract. So like 2020, 21, 2022, Pro Football Focus, they do their grading for both man coverage and zone coverage, and he consistently graded out as one of the best man coverage corners in the NFL. And just, you could see Todd Bowles didn't trust everything about his defense to call a lot of man coverage. This year, depending on the sites you use, he's calling it at like a 40% rate, which is that's not just he went higher. That's like some of the league leading stuff. And it's because he finally has faith in every piece of his defensive backfield. I think some of that might also come down to the nickel position.
Right.
Tyke Smith was fantastic in the nickel last year. Christian Izien was solid in the nickel the year before, but they're both more zone cover type nickels. Jacob Parrish can do everything.
He's a monster for a little guy. I love that guy.
Absolutely fantastic, and he can hold his own in that man coverage. And so because of that, you can see Bowles has his trust in the back end, but he also has his trust in the front 4 that, we can get home and we can leave these guys on islands. That is playing to Dean's strength. And to your point, Dean has leveled his game up, which is fantastic to see from such a great dude. That the play on the field is matching the person off the field. And you can see how much fun he's having. Like, there was a video from the locker room the other day where Baker was like, said something.
Yeah, it was my video. It was my video.
Yeah, that's right. And just watching his eyes light up.
He's like, appreciate it, Baker.
It's just great to see. So this entire defense is clicking in terms of the scheme that Bowles is using. Some of the blitz packages, it's not just his standard 5-man fire zones. He's bringing 6 and 7. He's bringing them from odd angles. He saw something with the Jets where he's like, I can spam nickel blitzes and they're just never going to pick it up. And he was absolutely right. They just kept coming. Antoine Winfield Jr., Jacob Parrish, they just kept coming and nobody picked them up. And it was able to just create havoc. That first half against the Jets, they let the foot off the pedal in the second half. But that first half, there was a stretch where they averaged like allowing only 3.3 plays per drive, 2.7 yards per play. It was just absolutely complete dominance. And if the defense can continue to play at this level, they can hold the fort down while the offense gets healthier.
It's kind of weird, right? Having the different discussion than we did last year, right? Bringing the other side of it where the offense is really carrying a lot of the water. Let's go back to the offense with Godwin out. Like, how do you see Philly going and trying to defend a guy like Emeka Egbuka? And how do you think that Grizzard and Bowles and the whole team pretty much, how do they deploy the wide receivers? Now we know that Evans is going to be out. Like you said, Chris Godwin's probably going to be on a pitch count. So you're going to need to see Sterling Shepard step up, which he has, and maybe some more Tez Johnson, Ryan Miller. Like, you know, when you look at this offensive game plan, I think they need to run the heck out of the football. But what about the passing game, and how do you think Philly's going to try to combat that? Who are they going to keep their eye on?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you'll see a little bit of an evolution from Egbuka in terms of who he's been in the pros, which is a little bit different than what he was in college. In college, he was an absolute dog when it came to the short to intermediate areas of the field. And that's why he earned that reputation across just about everybody in the pre-draft process. He's a mini Chris Godwin.
Right.
But if you look at what he's done so far in 3 games, he's been phenomenal deep. He's caught 4 of his 6 targets. He's gotten 80% of his yardage on deep targets, targets of 20-plus air yards. 80% of his yardage has come from those types of targets, and all 3 of his touchdowns, right? And it's either that or it's been the short stuff, including a lot of the screens. He has not really he has no catches yet in the intermediate part of the field. That is where Mike Evans lives, right? And that is a big part of how the Bucs offense has done so well over the past few years is Evans is that intermediate to deep guy. They need somebody to step into that role. Sterling Shepard has done pretty well in the intermediate so far this year, but they need somebody else. Egbuka, I see him moving to that X role if Godwin's back and taking over some of that, which he did really well in college. So he's able to do that. And when you look at how defenses are being played these days, there's a lot of cover 2, and you're going to need somebody who can hit that backside dig and be there and that Baker can trust. If you go back to the Falcons game, he was nailing Evans on a few of those, especially when the front side or the play side or concept side wasn't there for him. He was finding that backside dig. So he needs somebody, and Egbuka can serve that role. If you move Egbuka there, who kind of serves the role that he's been playing short and deep, well, Tez Johnson's your guy there. Yeah, he's your manufactured touch guy short. And then you saw it on that one play at the beginning of the game-winning drive against the Jets, where on that deep post, little wiggle right at the stem and just crossed face on the safety and wide open, right? And Baker just overthrew him a little bit. So you have these opportunities for these guys to kind of fall into these different roles. Sterling Shepard's your short to intermediate guy. Tez is your short and deep guy, and then Egbuka is your intermediate to deep guy. So it allows you to still hit all 3 phases or all 3 parts of the field and keep the passing attack viable.
What's the number one thing you're going to be keeping on it, more than just like, all right, how the offensive line play is, but, you know, for the Buccaneers, I think as a whole, what are we looking at on both sides of the football in order for them to be able to win this game? Because in a weird way, I think a lot of people are, a lot of Bucs fans are going, we're 3-0. We're making the best of the worst situation. If the Bucs lose this game, I don't think Bucs fans are going to freak out, right? Because they just realize, like, hey, you're playing the Super Bowl champs. You're depleted. You're getting some guys back. But, and then if they win this game, right, like I love this matchup right now because it's like, all right, well, let's see. Because you have 2 teams that find a way to win. That's what good football teams do. So on both sides of the football, what are you looking at as far as kind of what could dictate the outcome of this one?
Yeah, I think it's the trenches on both sides. And you know, the Eagles might be without their all-world right tackle, Lane Johnson, so which was exactly what happened last year. He wasn't in that game. They used Fred Johnson. The Bucs took advantage. Todd Bowles has had Jalen Hurts' number for a number of years. And so I think the defense can keep them in the ball game as long as they can win on the front. And with Reddick and with Yaya, I think they can win on the front there, and they can keep this a low-scoring affair. And at that point, if the Bucs offensive line can get enough successful runs, and I'm not talking like the 12-yarders or even the 7, just the 4 to 5-yarders to keep the team on schedule. If the offensive line can do enough against a very good interior of the Eagles defensive line, then I think it comes down to turnovers, and you're seeing the Bucs defense starting to to get to a place where they can create those turnovers. So I give them a puncher's chance. I would give it almost an even money line.
What is it about Jalen Hurts and that offense sometimes where it looks like, man, they're unstoppable? And other times, like you look at that second half against the Dallas Cowboys and they don't get AJ and Brown involved right away. Like it seems like as good as they are, they get taken out of their offense very easily at times, which is kind of rare to say about a team that has such an incredible offensive line over the years. They have the best running back probably in football. You have a great quarterback in Jalen Hurts. You got 2 weapons on the outside. You got a good tight end. But it seems like at times they get taken out of their rhythm, and it's very strange to me. Do you notice that?
Yeah, I would say the offense is disjointed, right?
Yeah.
So you have kind of 2 offenses. If they are under center, they want to hand the ball off to Saquon. Jalen's not super comfortable running the passing attack from under center. I think I saw something like last year in the playoffs was the very first time he took a snap and dropped back, straight drop back without a play action in his pro career.
Oh my God.
Right. And then where they want to win with their passing attack is from the shotgun. So when you have such a bifurcated offense, it's easy to become disjointed, and it's easy for defenses to kind of say, this is how we're going to scheme to you. And they are able to overcome that with 2 different things. The running game is good. And then also they can hit shots like they have between Devonta and AJ Brown. They have enough where they may not be a successful offense in terms of continually getting first downs, but all of a sudden they hit a 40-yarder, they're in field goal range, they can score points. So it's those big plays, those explosives, which is really, really interesting for this game because the Bucs defense has limited explosives to almost nothing. Tyrod Taylor, I think he completed only 5 passes over 10 air yards last week for 33 yards. So like they are absolutely keeping the cap on everything because Antoine Winfield Jr. is back healthy and Tyke Smith has made that transition to safety so easily. So when you have an offense that struggles to stay on schedule but needs explosives against a defense that absolutely limits explosives and is good against the run, that's why I'm saying, like, with all the injuries on the offense, this defense is actually set up really well to limit Philly and keep it a game.
Yeah, I think if the Buccaneers win this game, they got to win the turnover battle because I think that's when you start turning Philly one-dimensional. You get them behind, and then they can't run the football like they have and impose their will. And I think if Jalen becomes just a pass-first quarterback, that's probably the next step that he needs to make if he wants to be in that upper echelon of quarterbacks. I'm a lot higher on Jalen than a lot of other people because I just love his leadership qualities, but there's got to be some of these games, I think, sometimes where they're behind and he's got to throw their way back into it. Kind of saw that with the Rams a little bit last week where they were able to come back, but doing that on a consistent basis, I think really is, his next level, next step in his maturation. Josh _Queipo on Twitter/X. We love him, not just because he uses the word bifurcated on the program, because he is just our favorite Josh. You are the best, my friend. I appreciate you taking the time. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the games this weekend. Thank you.
You too, Jay. Thanks.
All right, bud. The number 1 Josh in the game right now. He's the man. Love it. Josh Queipo, Pewter Report, pewterreport.com. Go check out our guys. Everything they've got going on. They are all over the place, man. They are one of one. Did you see last night David Fry take the 99-mile-an-hour fastball off the face from Tari Skubal? Oh, my God, man. So I got hit one time by a guy, and he threw in the mid to upper 80s. I was playing men's league down here at Northside Little League where Kevin Cash used to play. And I was running it was bases loaded. I was running from second to third. There was really no play at third, but the guy was trying to show off his arm, and he threw the ball all the way down to third, and it hit me right in the face. And I didn't go down, but I got concussed really, really bad. I slept in my baseball uniform that night. I should have went to the hospital, but I mean, my God, that's 10 miles an hour harder. You're trying to bunt the ball. I was just telling kids too, make sure you see that ball hit the bat. That was ugly. And man, what an incredible comeback for the Cleveland Guardians. It all started here in Tampa, man. They got back to, playing the game the right way, and look at what they've been able to do. Now they are tied for the lead in the American League Central. They own the tiebreaker over the Detroit Tigers. And again, ladies and gentlemen, for all the people, run differential and this and that and blah, blah, freaking blah. The Detroit Tigers have a run differential of +70. the Cleveland Guardians -6 doesn't mean jack shit. Sorry, buddy. Cleveland Guardians 9-1 in their last 10. Detroit 1-9 in their last 10. They've lost 7 in a row. They are rumbling, bumbling, stumbling down the stretch. The wild card in the American League, the Yankees are in. Red Sox, they're close to clinching. And then what's the deal with the Tigers? The Astros are a game behind them. Wow. It's pretty wild, man. Pretty freaking crazy. Cubs and Padres have clinched in the National League. A big win for the Mets. They're a game ahead of the Reds. The Reds own the tiebreaker there. Just a couple of games left in the regular season. 157, 5 games left in baseball, baby. Postseason is going to be wild. The Rays lose last night 6-0. No surprise there. Great chat with Mark Topkin of the Tampa Bay Times on the program yesterday. That's up on our page, YouTube channel. Check it out there. Tomorrow on the program, we will have our very first chat with Dr. Rodriguez from Evra Health. So if you want to figure out what type of injuries are going to be a problem, do you have a guy on your fantasy team, Jaden Daniels or Tristan Wirfs or Chris Godwin, right? How many snaps do you think Chris Godwin can play? Keep an eye on that. That's going to be huge, right? So every single Thursday at 12:30, Dr. Rodriguez is going to join us. We're also going to have our fantasy football questions from 12:50 to 1 o'clock. Also tomorrow, Tom Jones joins us, formerly of the Tampa Bay Times. Tom now at the Pointer Institute. We're going to talk about the Rays and a guy like Stu Sternberg and his tenure there, and also 50 years of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And then Chaz Nimrod's going to join us as well, USF wide receiver. He joins us at about 1:40 tomorrow, so another great show. And then tomorrow we'll find out. Another day of Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs. Will they be on the field for the team? Hopefully they will. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Get those super chats in, man. Every single day they help. A big thank you to our sponsors, Honest Hammer and Evra Health. I couldn't do this without you guys. The t-shirts are coming. The memberships are coming. By this time next week, we should be all wrapped up and ready to roll, baby, as we take the Recher podcast to the next level. A big thank you to our guests on the program today, Bob Harig from Sports Illustrated, and also our good buddy Josh Queipo from Pewter Report. That's going to wrap it up for me. Everybody have a wonderful Wednesday, whether you're here in the Tampa Bay area or abroad. We'll see you tomorrow right here at noon on the Recher podcast. I'm gone.